صلوا على محمد وآل Muhammad. Brothers, there's a lot of commotion in the back. Can you kindly come forward to the majlis, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Ya bint Rasulillah, Ya zawjat Aynillah, Ya Umma Wajihillah, Ya فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت رسول الله يا زوجة عين الله يا أم وجيه الله يا فاطمة الزهراء. You were merciful, rahmatan lil alameen.
A shelter for Heather, shelter for Allah's deen.
A cradle for Hassanan, Zainab
The Jadda of Mahdi, Ma'soom ibn Ma'soom.
You are the fountainhead of love and sacrifice. No wonder you were named Lady of Paradise. Ya bint Rasulillah, Ya zawjat Aynillah, Ya Umma Wajihillah, Ya Fatimah al-Zahra. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. O daughter of Ahmad, Zawja of Murtada.
O mother of Hassanan, Ya
The weight of every role you bore so perfectly
that Allah spread the tahir from your identity.
Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Can we hold it?
Just hold it. The weight of every role you bore so perfectly
That Allah spread the tahir from your identity.
Look, this is Fatima, and this is her father, and this is her husband, and this her progeny. Unzurhum Fatima, Abuha Ba'luha, Banuha Ahlul Bayt, Tahharahum Tathira. Salli ala. In marriage, loyalty, content in poverty.
As parent keeping faith
teaching equality.
When feeding the needy, teaching humanity.
Your virtues are unmatched, Ya Abiha, your model worthy of Sayyidatun Nisa, Ya bint Rasulillah, Ya zawjat Aynillah, Ya wajihillah, Ya Fatimat az-Zahra. Last stanza but loud salawat. Tending your father's wounds, sustaining risalat,
Upholding the ummah, protecting imamat.
your challenge did not die until the day you died.
Your khutbah will survive every era and tide.
We shall never concede that might is always right. Your protest shall endure, O Our Lady of Light, Ya bint Rasulillah, Ya zawjat Aynillah, Ya wajihillah, Ya Fatimat az-Zahra. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
MashaAllah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'd like to request all of you to please kindly move forward as much as possible so we have a proper majlis etiquette. Please kindly put your cell phones on silent if they're not already on so we don't disturb the majlis. For anyone who would like to sponsor any of the majlises or make contribution towards the Fatimiyya, these 5 nights, you can see Brother Sayyid Ali Shirazi or Brother Asad Isfahani, inshallah. Now, without further ado, I'd like to request Sheikh to take the members. Salawat for Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
On the Lady of Light, Lady Fatima al-Zahra, Salamullah alayha.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله بارئ الخلائق الأجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما مولانا صاحب الأمر والزمان. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. آمين رب العالمين. أما بعد، قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن علينا جمعه وقرآنه. صدق الله العلي العظيم وآمنا به. نوروا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد. Ahibai, you find that studying Islamic history is of absolute importance for each and every one of us, because within the field of Islamic history, at the very minimum, there are two deeply related issues that are embedded within history, or two deeply related concepts that are embedded within Islamic history. Number one is our Aqidah. The science of history and history as a field allows us to understand our Aqidah to a greater extent, and our success in the dunya and the akhirah, the fulfillment of the purpose of our existence and our roles and our responsibilities towards the Ahlul Bayt cannot be fulfilled until and unless we have an Aqidah which is solid. And this is the summary of the entire advent of Karbala. If you were to look at the sifat of the ashab of Imam al-Hussein, from the companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada, from the eldest of the companions according to some of the historians, which was Joan, according to some of them, we have within the books of history, if my memory does not fail me, close to 6 or 7 companions of Rasulullah who were within the tent of Imam al-Hussein, within the camp of Sayyid al-Shuhada, all the way down to the youngest of the Shuhada. You will find that one sifat, regardless whether it was Habib or Muslim or Joan or the Shuhada of Bani Hashim or Wahab or Habib ibn Madahir, one sifat that all of them had was that they were unmovable mountains when it came to Aqidah. There was no shock in this. And you find that this is one of the sifat of those of us who aspire to be from amongst the ashab and the ansar of the awaited Imam. Because you find that in the characteristics of the companions of the awaited Imam, who will fill the earth with peace and justice. Don't think about this. The Imam is coming to fill the earth with peace and justice. It's not just coming to change one country, 2 countries. It's not coming to change one state, one city. Even though changing a city is a big thing. Intum shufu, you are at the doors of elections or you're in the period of a transition. You see, when a new government wants to come in, what type of individuals are needed in order to facilitate economic growth and prosperity in a city, state, or in a country? The team that needs to come behind them, team of experts, dedicated, everything doing. Sahih Lola, you can't just have one good leader. You need to have an entire team around him. They need to have sifat. So now imagine, they need to have qualifications. Now if we can understand this in dunyawi situations, then what about this mission that Imam al-Hujjah is coming with, that he wants to fill the earth with peace and justice, just like that it has been filled with injustice and oppression. What is the characters of those companions, the qualification that is needed for you and I to attain in order to be a part of this grand movement? Imam al-Jawad says, قلوبهم كالزبر الحديد. Their hearts are like steel when it comes to Aqidah. Strengthening Aqidah is absolutely important. There could be compromise in every aspect of life except for Aqidah, because this is one. Aqidah is strengthened, understood through history. Number two, history allows us to build our identity. And you find this is a common ishkal, particularly during the times of Fatimiyya, where a lot of people may come forward for different reasons. Some of them are genuinely interested, some of them by way of fitna, some of them by way of their own dunyawi goals. They come and they say, every year Fatimiyya, why you have to talk about Sayyidah Zahra? Why you have to talk about the dhulm that happened on Sayyidah Fatima Zahra? Why are we so stuck on focusing on the past? History, let bygones be bygones. Let us focus on the present. Let us focus on the future. Live in the now, the way they say. Subhanallah, this concept, this way of thinking is totally contradictory to the Quran. You open the Quran from Surah Al-Fatiha to Surah Al-Nas. Look how Allah constantly brings up history. History of Nabi Musa, history of Nabi Isa, history of the Anbiya, people of the past. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran tells you, go and travel. Why? Because if you travel the vast earth of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will see the history of the civilizations before you and take lesson and heed from them. Where they failed, protect yourself now. Where they succeeded, adapt. History allows you to build your identity. And therefore, Ahibba'i, studying Islamic history is absolutely important. And as you embark on this journey of Islamic history, one of the most critical aspects of early Islamic history are the events that happened and the events that took place leading up to the martyrdom of Rasulullah. Number one, the events that happened whilst the Prophet was, or once the Prophet was martyred and before he was buried. Number two. Number three, that part of history immediately after the burial of Rasulullah up to the time of the martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra. These are critical periods of Islamic history that shape your Aqidah, that shape your identity. And to cancel this out means diluting or cancelling out your Aqidah, or diluting and cancelling out your identity. And within these phases of history, Ahibba'i, there is one particular part of history that we would like to discuss for tonight's majlis. And this is the history of the compilation of the Holy Quran. As we study the tafsir of the Quran, as we memorize the Quran, as we recite the Quran, as we learn lessons and extrapolate lessons from the Quran, it is absolutely important for us to study the history of the Holy Quran. Who compiled the Quran? When was the Quran authored? Who were the individuals that were involved in the compilation of the Quran? So for tonight's majlis, Ahibba'i, our focus is in regards to the history of the Holy Quran and the history of the compilation of the Quran. And this bahath we will put forward and present this bahath with the following chronology. Number one, we will very briefly mention the mainstream narrative within the Islamic books as to how the Quran was compiled. Number one, the mainstream narrative, like what you can say your mainstream media, the news that the media gives you, and then there is the real news that you get. So we will look at the mainstream narrative of the compilation of the Holy Quran, number one. Number two, we will critically re-examine using historical texts to see whether this verifies or matches or contradicts the mainstream narrative that is put forward. We will do this in two steps. We will look at Dalil Am, general sets of proof, and then we will look at Dalil Khas, particular sets of proof for the Holy Quran. Number three, we will then examine the role of Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, when it came to authoring and compiling the Holy Quran. And finally, time permitting, we will examine, or we will briefly have a look at what happened to the copies of the Holy Quran that were authored with Amirul Mu'mineen. Insha'Allah, all of this beginning with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Tamam, mainstream narrative about the compilation of the Holy Quran. Ahibba'i, if you were to open majority of the Islamic history textbooks or textbooks in regards to Ulum al-Quran, you will find the following narrative as to how the Quran was compiled. Premise number one, they begin by saying that during the lifetime of Rasulullah, the Quran was never actually written down or compiled, and that Rasulullah left this dunya without a compiled book. Rather, the Quran was an expression of scattered pieces of literature, verses of the Holy Quran written on one piece of paper, on one bone, on one sheepskin. Some of them are here and some of them are there. But the Quran was never actually really compiled as one book during the time of Rasulullah. And rather what would happen is that people preserved the Quran, or the companions preserved the Quran by memorizing it. It is only during the time of the Battle of Yamama. The Battle of Yamama took place in around 11 or 12 AH, about a year after the martyrdom of Rasulullah, where in this battle, according to the variances within the historians, between 70, which is the lowest figure, and 700, which is the highest figure. So between 70 to 700 memorizers of the Holy Quran died in the Battle of Yamama. So now those of the companions of Rasulullah who had memorized the Quran, 700 of them have died in battle. So there was a fear that the dhikr of the Holy Quran is going to be obliterated from the Muslim Ummah. So as a result, Umar ibn Khattab went to Abu Bakr and he said to him, I fear that the Quran may get obliterated, so we now need to start thinking on how we should compile and codify the Quran. So the first efforts to codify the Quran began after the Battle of Yamama and continued during the time of the rule of Umar ibn Khattab, leading into the rule of Uthman ibn Affan. And then mainstream media comes and tells us that during the time of Uthman, a committee was put together, and the head of the committee was a companion by the name of Zayd ibn Thabit, by the way, who was only 20 years old. This is at the time of the Khilafah of Uthman ibn Affan. فَإِنْتُمْ try and do the mathematics that if he was 20 at that age, what was his age during the time of Rasulullah and during the time the actual nuzul of the Quran happened. In any case, Zayd ibn Thabit, who was 20 years of age, was made in charge of this committee. And the manner in which they would verify the verses of the Holy Quran is that they would bring two witnesses in front of Zayd ibn Thabit. Because Zayd was supposed to be a memorizer of the Holy Quran, Hafidhul Quran. So when Zayd would recite a verse of the Quran, if there was any discrepancy in any surah or in any verse of the Quran, they bring two witnesses. If the two witnesses match and they're all three of them match in their recitation of the verse of the Quran, this was established. Wherever there was discrepancy, they went out the window. And this is how the Quran was compiled under the auspices of Uthman ibn Affan, according to mainstream media. Tamam. This is the historical version that is taught in a number of madaris. This is the history of the Quran that is taught even within most of the Islamic history courses within the universities and even within Ulum al-Quran. Tamam. For tonight, we want to re-examine this. And as I laid out the chronology for you, before we jump into this chronology, let me put forward for you one set of dalil that actually disproves mainstream narrations of the compilation of the Quran using a dalil aqli. Shufu. If we hold on to the mainstream narrative that the Quran was compiled by the companions in the manner that we have described during the time of Uthman ibn Affan, if we subscribe to this version of history that the Quran that you and I read from today is the Quran compiled by the companions at the time of Uthman, academically speaking, I believe all of us come from academic backgrounds. So in the spirit of academia, strictly academically speaking, none of us have the right, if we believe in mainstream version of history, none of us have the right to call the Quran Kitabullah. So this is a serious claim. Kitabullah means what? Book of Allah. How? Let me give you an example. Allah grant all of us Azza wa Jal the opportunity to perform the ziyarat of Amirul Mu'mineen inshallah in Najaf. Tamam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let me give you an example that makes things very, very clear, and we cut time and we move forward as well. So say inshallah, all of you Shabab Mu'mineen from Idara Ja'fariya, Maryland, you get the opportunity to go for ziyarah to Najaf al-Ashraf. You visit Amirul Mu'mineen next year. And as you perform your ziyarah, inshallah, say for example you went and you visited the office and the maktab of His Eminence Ayatollah Sayyid Ali al-Sistani. Imagine you went and you met Sayyid al-Sistani, all of you as a community, 50, 60 of you. And when you sat over there, okay, everybody takes a turn to ask the question to the Sayyid. You ask a question about halal and haram, fatwas. Scenario is clear in the mind. And as everyone is asking their questions, you have one of the brothers, Brother Jafar for example. Brother Jafar is sitting there and he's writing down all the questions, and he's also writing down the answers of Sayyid al-Sistani, the Marja for example. Tamam? Academically speaking, when you come back to Maryland from your ziyarah, if Jafar goes and compiles this book of questions and answers, does he have the right to compile and publish this book and say that this is the book of fatwas of Sayyid Sistani? Can he attribute the book to the Marja Taqlid? Academically speaking, no. What he can do is, he can say that these are questions and answers that we as our independent efforts wrote down together that may or may not represent the fatwas of the Sayyid, of the Marja. So this is your individual attempt and your understanding of what the fatwa may be. Same thing when it comes to ulum al-Quran. If we come forward and are insistent on the mainstream narrative that this Quran is Kitabullah, I cannot take the independent efforts of the compilation of the Quran by the Sahaba and attribute it to Allah. So now what is this? Academically speaking, you can't do this. You go your own compilation and you attribute it to somebody higher than you. This is unheard of, unseen of. Academically speaking, it's a joke, it's a lie. Not only is it a lie, but at a higher level it's called blasphemy. In any case, dalil akli. We move with our chronology. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The first thing that we analyze is, Ahibba'i, the claim that is made that during the time of Rasulullah, or when Rasulullah left this dunya, the Quran as a written copy did not exist. We want to disprove this claim, number one, with two types of dalil, which is dalil am. Shufu. We have a hadith, numerous hadith in fact. This hadith is narrated by Sunan at-Tirmidhi, and pay attention to the methodology on how we achieve or reach to our conclusion by disproving the major premise, which is the mainstream narrative. We're together? Tamam. Hadith is mentioned in Sunan at-Tirmidhi or Sahih Tirmidhi. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم is from me, not from the text. قال رسول الله إني تارك فيكم ما إن تمسكتم به لن تذلوا بعدي. I am leaving behind for you two things. So long as you hold on to them, you shall never go astray. Tamam, what are these? It says أحدهما أعظم من الآخر or أعظم من الآخر. كتاب الله حبل ممدود من السماء إلى الأرض. One of them is greater than the other, and this is the Holy Quran, which is the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that extends from the heavens down to the earth. Number one, so I'm leaving behind you two things. The first one is the Quran. He says Kitab Allah. Pay attention to this word, Kitab Allah. And he says the second thing is what? Wa itrati ahla bayti. Now over here I have a side point to make for you. Hadith al-Thaqalain, inni tarikun fikum al-Thiqlain. The most original and authentic version of this hadith, inni tarikun fikum al-Thiqlain kitabullahi wa itrati, is what is sahih and what is mashhur. This is what has been widely narrated, not inni tarikun fikum kitabullah wa sunnati. La, what was mashhur even within the non-Shia was, I leave behind you the Quran and my Ahlul Bayt. And the proof for this is Sahih Tirmidhi. And the same hadith that I leave behind for you, the Quran and my Ahlul Bayt, is also listed in the writings of Ahmad ibn Hanbal in his Musnad, and in Sunan ad-Darimi, and in the Mustadrak of Sahihain. It is also mentioned by Al-Bayhaqi in his book Sunan al-Kubra, and is mentioned in Majma'u al-Zawaid, and is also mentioned in the Musannif of Ibn Abi Shayba, who is the teacher of the author of Sahih Muslim. All of them have said in Hadith al-Thaqalain, inni tarikun fikum kitabullah wa itrati ahla bayti. Where did Sunnati come from? Sunnati came from the first time this concept of replacing Ahlul Bayt with the Sunnah came in the writings of Malik ibn Anas, the Imam of the Maliki school of thought, when he wrote the book Muwatta. Muwatta was written in which time period? During the time of the Abbasi Khalifa Mansur. where he came to Malik ibn Anas and he said to him, write for me a compilation of fiqh. This is a separate majlis, but the goal of the compilation of the fiqh is that there is an alternate source of truth to the derivation of the ahkam other than what Ahlul Bayt is preaching. Because at that time the madrasa of Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq was full force. So in order to create an alternate source of truth, Kitab al-Muwatta was written. In any case, the kalam is where over here? Is that Rasulullah says from within Sahih Tirmidhi that I'm leaving behind for you two things. What was the first thing? Kitabullah. Ajib. Rasulullah is saying to the people in his lifetime that I am leaving behind for you a book. Kitab. The word kitab means what? Kitab in Arabic language is a word that is attributed to a number of pages that are collated together between two covers. This is what you call a book. Even in English language, B-O-O-K. The word book is applicable to something that is put pieces of paper that are compiled together and have a cover. I cannot call a piece of paper that is lying here and there and there and there and there and one sheepskin over there, call this is a book. What language is this? This is against the application of language. That the word is attributed to a certain meaning. The word kitab is attributed to the meaning of a compilation of papers together. So if we say that the Quran was scattered in different pieces of bones and papers in Fulan's house and Fulan's house, how do you call this a book? Rasulullah says no, it's a book. Second proof. This is narrated in Sahih Bukhari. And the hadith is categorized as Sahih according to their levels of ilm al-rijal. لما حضر رسول الله في البيت لما حضر رسول الله وفي البيت رجال. When Rasulullah was living his final moments, and there were people who were inside of the house. فيهم Umar ibn Khattab, and from amongst them there was Umar ibn Khattab. So the Prophet said, قال النبي هلم أكتب لكم كتابا لا تذل بعده. This is where, in which text? Sahih Bukhari. Look at what the Prophet is saying. In his final moments, he said, people, give me a pen so that I can write for you something. لن تذل بعدي أبدا. If I write this wasiyah for you, no one shall ever go astray. The particle of negation, for those of us who study Arabic language, lam noon, it denotes negation in the present tense up to the future. Meaning that if this wasiyah of Rasulullah is to be written and implemented, nobody until the day of judgment will ever go astray. Hadith, see, reading hadith is one thing, memorizing hadith is one thing, but the real lidha is in the fiqh of hadith. Shuf. This what does Bukhari say? Rasulullah said, and this hadith is categorized as sahih. Rasulullah in his final moments is saying, give me a pen so that I can write for you. Ajib. If you go back to mainstream history, from the time we were young to the time we died and became old, they said that Rasulullah was illiterate and couldn't write. How can you say that Rasulullah was illiterate and couldn't write, and in your own books it is saying over here in the final moments Rasulullah was saying, give me a pen so I can write. Shufu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil faraja. We have to be careful on everything that is written in mainstream history, what is right and what is wrong. In any case, he said, give me something that I can write. فَقَالَ عُمَرُ إِنَّ النَّبِي قَدْ غَلَبَ عَلَيْهِ الْوَجْعِ. The Prophet, so Umar stood up and said, the Prophet has been overcome with intense pain. What does this mean? This means that the Prophet is in so much pain, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So what did he say? Hasbuna kitab Allah. The book of Allah is sufficient for us. The point of this hadith that we are looking at over here is what? He said, Hasbuna what? Kitab Allah, the book of Allah is sufficient, meaning that there was a compiled book in the presence of the Muslims. And because it was there and it was accessible to everybody, he felt that this book is sufficient and that the Prophet is of no need anymore. Had the book not been present, there is no basis of using the word book if no physical compilation did not exist at the time. Either you say that the speaker is Ghair Hakim, or this is a direct violation of the rules of language when you attribute a word to a certain meaning. Even metaphorically speaking, you cannot apply the word book to scattered pieces of paper. This is Dalil Am, in the way that the people were talking at the time, and the usage of the word kitab in reference to the Quran gives us enough of a clear indication that there existed a written, compiled copy of the Quran during the time. This is Dalil Am. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Dalil Khas. Do we have particular? Because the first, see the difference between Dalil Am and Dalil Khas is what? In Dalil Am, the first two hadith that we prove, we reach our conclusion. The methodology is important, Ahibai. We reach our conclusion through the logical inference. We are able to derive logical conclusions through the usage of words within Arabic language. What is the word kitab meant for? Sahih Lola. This is in Dalil Khas, we have actual textual proof, evidence that shows the existence of the copy of the Quran during the time of Rasulullah. Again, I will provide you with two examples. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We have hadith from Sunni sources, and this is from Durr al-Manthur, the Tafsir Durr al-Manthur, which is also available electronically and in hard copy today, by Jalaluddin al-Suyuti, who is one of the greatest mufassirin of the Quran from the Amma. What does he say? Hadith Sharif in regards to Ibn Abbas, they are talking about the time of the Holy Prophet. How was the Quran obtained by the people during the time of the Holy Prophet? So look at what is narrated by Ibn Abbas. كانت المصاحف لا تباع. The Quran, the Mus'haf, the Quran never used to be sold during the time of Rasulullah. And this is why even when you come to Kitabul Mu'amalat, the book of transactions, there is no price, selling price for the Quran. Can't go to the shop and say I want to buy the Quran, or if I have a bookstore I can't say I'm selling the Quran for this price. What you say is you ask what is the hadiyah for the Quran, the gift for the Quran. Tamam. So he says كانت المصاحف لا تباع. Quran never used to be sold. كان الرجل. How did people get access to the Quran during the time of Rasulullah? Look at what is Ibn Abbas says. كان الرجل يأتي بورقة عند النبي فيقوم الرجل فيحتسب فيكتب ثم يقوم آخر فيكتب حتى يفرغ من المصحف. During the time of Rasulullah in Masjid al-Nabawi, the people would come with their pieces of paper. They would come and they would stand next to Rasulullah and they would look at a master copy of the Holy Quran and then they would begin writing as much of the Quran as they could on different pieces of paper. When one person finishes, another person comes, writes as much as he can. When he finishes, a third one comes, and then a fourth and a fifth. And this is how the Quran was spread. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Meaning that during the time of Rasulullah, under the supervision of Rasulullah, under the watch of Rasulullah, there was an active movement and an initiative where Rasulullah encouraged as many of the companions who could read and write to write as much of the Quran as they could. Now, how much each person wrote, it depends according to their qudra. Some person may have written 5 juz, somebody 3 juz, somebody 3/4 of the Quran, somebody half of the Quran. But the important thing is that the Quran was being written. We have another hadith, because time is also not in my favor, so I will paraphrase the hadith from the books of the Shia. Kitabul Kafi, hadith sharif by Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, where he says, next to the mimbar of Rasulullah, there was a small encavement in the wall of Masjid al-Nabawi. Like in some places how you see when you go to the masjid, you have a mihrab, or you have an encavement over here. There was a small encavement, and it was just tall enough, the length was high enough for a person who's almost in a state of ruku to actually go in. And there would be a master copy of the Quran over there. And people would look at it and they would copy. There were no photocopy machines at that time. They would look and they would handwrite and they would copy pieces of the Quran. This shows you what? Dalil khas. That the mainstream narrative that is taught to us, that there were no copies of the Quran that existed at the time that Rasulullah passed away, and that this was an initiative where the Quran was compiled and codified during the time of Uthman ibn Affan, needs to be critically re-examined and corrected, because historical evidence suggests otherwise. Tamam. If we understand this, we come to the next stage, which is, what was the role of Maulana Amirul Mu'mineen when it came to the compilation of the Holy Quran? Ahibbai, it is an undisputed fact within our books that the Quran was compiled by none other than Amirul Mu'mineen, and no other person apart from Amirul Mu'mineen deserved to compile the Holy Quran. And there is collaborating evidence of what is found in our books, even in the books of the non-Shia. Look at this hadith in which Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam himself says, this is in Kitabul Kafi. Kafi Sharif, Ahibbai, is a text which is muhim jiddan. All of us in this day and age, in the ghaibah of the 12th Imam, Intum living in the West, studying in the madrasa, teaching in the madrasa, Kitabul Kafi is a necessary resource for us to possess. Usulul Kafi in particular. Now our shughul, our work is not with Furu'ul Kafi to a great extent, because we are not mujtahideen or fuqaha looking for istidlal. Usulul Kafi, everybody should have. We need to invest as a community where texts such as Usulul Kafi are easily available and accessible, and invest in translations that are decent and accurate. Sahih Allah, tamam. Kitabul Kafi, Shaykh al-Kulaini, Allahu Akbar. If we have time, inshallah, in another opportunity, I recite a majlis particularly on Shaykh Kulaini and Kitab al-Kafi. I have seen in Najaf al-Ashraf, Marja Taqleed, they teach Usulul Kafi on Wednesdays. When the Marja picks up Kitabul Kafi, in fact, love us. Ayatollah Sheikh Bashir al-Najafi, I have seen with my own eyes. On Wednesdays, he has Tafsir al-Quran. One of the Wednesdays when he referenced Kitabul Kafi of Shaykh al-Kulaini, when he picked up Kitabul Kafi, he put it on his forehead, he kissed it, and then he opened the book. Same ihtaram that you show the ihtaram for the Quran, because these are the words of Ali Muhammad. Oh, Allahu Akbar. Kitabul Kafi. In any case, Kitabul Kafi, Amirul Mu'mineen, Ruhi Lahul Fida, makes very clear for us the reality of his role and the central role that he played when it came to compiling the Holy Quran. Hadith al-Sharif, Amirul Mu'mineen himself says, pay attention to the hadith. فَمَا نَزَلَتْ عَلَى رَسُولِ اللَّهِ آيَةٌ مِّنَ الْقُرْآنِ إِلَّا أَكْرَأَنِيهَا وَأَمْلَاهَا عَلَيْهِ. Ajib. Amirul Mu'mineen says there is not a single verse of the Holy Quran that was revealed except that Rasulullah recited that verse to me. Wa amlaha alayhi. Rasulullah dictated to me while I wrote it down. Meaning that 23 years of Risala, whilst the Quran was being revealed, not a single verse from the 6,000 plus verses of the Holy Quran were revealed, except that Rasulullah dictated and Amirul Mu'mineen wrote. This is how the Quran was compiled. And then Amirul Mu'mineen goes on to say, وَكَتَبْتُهَا بِخَطِّي, and I wrote the Quran with my own handwriting. And then he goes on to say, وَعَلَّمَنِي يعني رسول الله وَعَلَّمَنِي تَعْوِيلَهَا وَتَفْسِيرَهَا وَنَاسِخَهَا وَمَنْسُوخَهَا وَمُحْكَمِهَا وَمُتَشَابِهَها وَعَامُّهَا وَخَاصَّهَا. And then Rasulullah taught me the ilm of the Holy Quran. He taught me the tafsir and he taught me the ta'wil. He taught me that which is mutashabih and that which is muhkam. He taught me that which is particular and restricted and that which is not restricted. The entire ilm of the Holy Quran was given to Amirul Mu'mineen. It's not just like this that Rasulullah said in the books of the Amma. Refer back to Majma' al-Zawaid. We have a number of references over here. Ibn Hajar, in the writings As-Sawa'iq, if I'm not mistaken, of Ibn Hajar. You go back to the writings of Al-Haythami, Tabarani, Mustadrak al-Sahihain. You will find the hadith of Rasulullah where he says, Aliyun ma'al Qur'an, wal Qur'anu ma'a Ali. Why? With this entire ilm, ta'wil, tafsir, khas, am, mutashabih, muhkam, Zahir, batin, everything is with Amirul Mu'mineen, such that the writing of the Quran was with Amirul Mu'mineen. You know what the word ma'a means? Mim, alif, inseparability between Ali and the Quran. Whether it was the physical copy of the Quran or the ruh of the Quran, inseparable from Amirul Mu'mineen. And we have non-Shia scholars who are able to corroborate and who are able or who testify to this truth. If you were to go back to Tariq Yaqubi, those of us who are students of history, Islamic history, you know the weight of Yaqubi in his history, Tariq Yaqubi. Tariq Yaqubi, what does he say? Inna Ali ibn Abi Talib kana jama'ahu lamma qubida Rasulullah, jama'ahu yani jama' al-Quran. Inna Ali ibn Abi Talib kana jama' al-Quran lamma qubida Rasulullah wa ata bihi yahmiluhu ala jumalin faqala hadha al-Quran kad jama'tuh. Tariq al-Yaqubi says that after Rasulullah died, Amirul Mu'mineen, he doesn't say Amirul Mu'mineen, he says Ali ibn Abi Talib was the first person to compile the Quran. So now you can look at the amount of evidence that is racking up to disprove the mainstream narrative of when, who and how the Quran was compiled. Tamam. If we understand this, we say that Amir al-Mu'mineen compiled the Quran. Over here, it's important that I shed light on something for you. That Amir al-Mu'mineen actually compiled 2 copies of the Holy Quran, not only one. One was the Quran, which is known as the Mus'haf. Mus'haf, from the beginning of the Quran to the end of Quran as we have it today. And this, by the way, is without going into the bahath, into the discussion of the different qira'at and how the qira'at return back to Amir al-Mu'mineen. If we add that as additional evidence, Allahu Akbar ba'ad. But for today's lecture, the Quran that we have, that we recite, the beginning, the first verse of the first chapter of the Quran is what? Surah Al-Fatiha. And the last verse of the Quran, from Fatihatul Kitab till Nas. This copy of the Quran is known as the Mus'haf, or the Quran of recitation, Mus'haf al-Qira'ah. This was compiled by Amir al-Mu'mineen and was there during the time of Rasulullah. And we have a second copy of the Holy Quran that Amir al-Mu'mineen compiled. And this was the tafsir of the Quran, and the chronology of the Quran over here with its tafsir was as per the order of the revelation of the verses. You know, very quickly speaking, in Ulum al-Quran you'll study this. There are 2 types of revelations of the Holy Quran. The first revelation of the Holy Quran was on Laylatul Qadr. The entire Quran was revealed in one go. Which entire Holy Quran? In this sequence from Fatihatul Kitab until Nas. And then you have a second revelation that happened over a period of 23 years. And the first verse to be revealed on, we all of us celebrate 27th of Mi'raj, Eid al-Bi'tha in Mi'raj. First verse to be revealed was what? Iqra. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi. Tamam. So the first verse to be revealed was Iqra. But when you open the Quran, the first surah is what? Surah Al-Fatiha. Why? Because the chronology of the Quran for the purpose of recitation is one thing. And the chronology of the Quran as in terms of tafsir, by arranging the verses of the Quran as per revelation, is something else. Amir al-Mu'mineen compiled both of them together. Proof for this is where? Look at this. This is narrated by Ibn al-Munadi, as one of the scholars from the non-Shia. He says, أنه, يعني Imam Ali, جلس في بيته 3 أيام حتى جمع القرآن. After the death of Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'mineen sat in the house and he compiled the entire Quran. And then he also goes on to say, جمع القرآن فهو أول مصحف جمع فيه القرآن. It was the first ever copy of the Holy Quran to be compiled. But the point over here is what? It was compiled in a period of how many? 3 days. We are able to understand that the Quran that was compiled within 3 days is the Quran which is the Mus'haf that you and I recite today, from Fatihatul Kitab until Nas. Compiled in 3 days. And the second copy of the Quran, which is the tafsir in its entirety, Amir al-Mu'mineen compiled it after. Look at the hadith. This is in Manaqib Ibn Shahr Ashub. Hadith is narrated on authority of Ibn Abbas. فَجَمَعَ اللَّهُ الْقُرْآنَ فِي قَلْبِ عَلِي وَجَمَعَهُ بَعْدَ مَوْتِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ بِسِتَّةِ أَشْهُرٍ. So Ibn Abbas is telling us over here that Amir al-Mu'mineen compiled the Quran and he presented it to the people 6 months after the passing away of Rasulullah. Ibn al-Munadi is telling us that Amir al-Mu'mineen sat in the house and he compiled the Holy Quran and completed it within 3 days. So we understand that there were 2 sets of Qurans that were compiled by Amir al-Mu'mineen. The first one is the Mus'haf without any tafsir, where the beginning is Suratul Hamd and the last one is Suratul Nas. He came and he presented it to the people 3 days after the Shahada of Rasulullah. And there was the second version version of the Quran which includes the tafsir and the ta'wil and the tartib as per the verses that Jibreel came down with over a period of 23 years. This was compiled within a period of 6 months. And there is additional proof towards this. How do you know that it was a tafsir and not a replicate of the same mushaf? Look at what Yaqubi says. We go back to Tariq Yaqubi. He says, when Amirul Mu'mineen compiled the Holy Quran, وَأَتَى بِهِ, he came to it. Where? To Masjid al-Nabawi. يَحْمِلُهُ عَلَى جُمَلٍ. This is a non-Shia source. Amirul Mu'mineen, when he compiled after 6 months the tafsir of the Holy Quran, these volumes, the number of volumes that Amirul Mu'mineen had written, they were to be loaded onto camels and brought to Masjid al-Nabawi. What is the maximum number of volumes you have seen for the tafsir of the Holy Quran? 10 volume, 20 volume, 50 volume, 100 volumes? Yaqubi is saying Amirul Mu'mineen wrote such a comprehensive, compiled such a comprehensive tafsir of the Quran. In fact, somebody should research this. What is the maximum weight that a camel can carry? Because the historians don't say that the tafsir was loaded on a single camel. The tafsir was so numerous in its volumes, they were loaded on multiple camels. What happened to this tafsir of Amirul Mu'mineen? We are short on time and we have masaib to recite. I will give you a summary and into can do additional readings. I would suggest that you refer back to in these nights of Fatimiyah. And these are events that are related to Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, by the way, The madhlumiyat of Amirul Mu'mineen is that the people tried to separate Amirul Mu'mineen from the Quran altogether, from the Deen altogether. Refer back to Kitab al-Ihtijaj, which is also translated in English, and Kitab Sulaym bin Qais al-Hilali. Shufu what is narrated in Kitab Sulaym in regards to what the people did with the Quran that Amirul Mu'mineen wrote. What is mentioned in Kitab al-Ihtijaj is that Amirul Mu'mineen came with a copy of the Holy Quran and presented it to the people and said to them, "O people, within this Quran I have compiled for you all the knowledge from the beginning till the end." The people from Quraysh came, they looked at the Quran and they said, "La hajata lana feek." We have no need for what you have compiled. What is with us is sufficient. This same story of Hasbuna Kitabullah. See how the silsila keeps continuing. And this Mus'haf of Amirul Mu'mineen, which is known as Kitab Ali or Mus'haf Ali, tafsir of the Holy Quran in its entirety, with its secrets and its tafsir and its ta'wil in all its volumes, is from the particular inheritance of the Imams of Ali Muhammad, and shall be brought back upon the dhuhur of Imam Sahib al-Amri wa Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ala. That this is the reality of the dhulm. Not only did they usurp the leadership from Amirul Mu'mineen, not only did they assault and murder the only daughter of Rasulullah, they isolated and they tried to eliminate Amirul Mu'mineen from Islam in its entirety. They cut his relation off from Khilafah and the Imamah, and they severed his relationship, or tried to sever his relationship or his connection with the Quran. And hence it is very clear that the goal was to establish a version of Islam that is free of Ahlul Bayt. and the fruits of this rebellion that took place during the time of Saqifa, the consequence of Saqifa, one major consequence of Saqifa is Karbala. Had Saqifa not had happened, no one would have had the jur'ah to kill Imam al-Hussein like the way they did on the day of Ashura. This reality, you read this in Ziyarat Ashura. Allahumma la'an awwala dhalimin dhalam haqqa Muhammadin wa alih Muhammad wa akhira tabi'in. Tabi' means what? They're just following what their predecessors did. They established the doors of dhulm. These people just continued. Allahu Akbar, what happened in Karbala? Tonight, Laylatul Jum'ah, Ahibai, lovers of Ali Muhammad, I want to present for you this masa'ib on the morning and the azar of three ma'sooms: Imam Rida, Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, and Imam al-Hussein. Allahu Akbar. This masa'ib brings masa'ib of three imams together. The historians mention that during the time of Imam al-Rida, whilst he was in Khurasan, it was the days of Muharram, so Imam al-Rida was sitting in his house wearing black in grief. So one of his companions by the name of De'bil, who was a poet, came in and he saw Imam al-Rida crying. De'bil stood up and he said, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, may Allah never bring tears to your eyes. Why is it that you weep and cry? Imam al-Rida said to De'bil, O De'bil, do you not know these are the days of Ashura? These were the days in which my grandfather Aba Abdullah was martyred while he was thirsty. Allah. Imam al-Rida then says to De'bil, Ya De'bil, can you stand up and recite poetry? All of you, Nawha Khans, Marcia Khans, when you recite poetry for Imam al-Hussein, this is Shay Azim, huh? Imam al-Rida says to De'bil, will you recite poetry for my grandfather Aba Abdullah? De'bil says, indeed it's an honor for me. The history mentions that Imam al-Rida then put a parda, a hijab in the middle of the room, and then he called the women, the Alawiyat, to sit on the other side of the parda and to weep for Imam al-Hussein. On the other side, the men sat. Imam al-Rida sat at the door of the majlis. Allahu Akbar. De'bil began to recite poetry. De'bil began to recite poetry and he eulogized the Imam al-Hussein. But he recited one line of poetry. When Imam Rida heard this, the historians mention Imam Rida wept so intensely that Imam Rida fainted out of grief. Allahu Akbar. What did De'bil say such that Imam Rida fainted? Allahu Akbar. The historians narrate this poem. De'bil recited, أفاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا فاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا وويلا وقد مات عطشانا بشط الفرات إذا للتمت فاطم وجهها عنده وجرت دمع العين بالوجانا. De'bil says to Imam al-Rida, when he recited this verse of poetry, Imam al-Rida fainted. What did he say? De'bil says, if Fatima al-Zahra would have seen
the broken body of Imam al-Hussein. If Sayyida Fatima al-Zahra would have come to Karbala and she would have seen the broken body, what would she do? The Emir says, إِذَنْ لَلَتَمْتِ Fatima. Sayyida Zahra would beat her face in grief. Allah, when Imam al-Rida heard this, he fainted. It is as if he was able to see the swollen face of Sayyida Zahra slapping herself in the aza of Imam al-Hussein. Allah, Allah, Shiat al-Muhammad. The Emir chose his words very carefully. Do you know what the Emir said? He said, أَفَاطِمُ لَوْ خِلْتِ الْحُسَيْنَ مُجَدَّلًا. If Fatima would have seen the broken body of Imam al-Hussein, the word that he uses is mujaddala. Do you know what is the meaning of mujaddala? Mujaddala is that body in which the bones are broken, and they are broken in such an extent that one bone is tangled with the other bone. So meaning, over here the Emir was talking about the manner in which they trampled the body of Imam al-Hussein. Allah, Allah, the heart of Sayyida Zainab and Imam Sajjad before Shah Ghariban. This is the final part of the Maqtala, the final part of the Masa'ib. The historians mention that Umar ibn Sa'ad, after Shimr al-Layn beheaded Imam al-Hussein, Umar ibn Sa'ad said, bring me 10 horsemen. They said, why? He said, trample on the body of Abu Abdullah. So they came with 10 horsemen. Umar ibn Sa'ad inspected the horses. He said, no. Allah, he said, no. They said, why? He said, bring me fresh horses, such their hooves are sharp, and they will break and damage the body even more. Allahu Akbar. 10 horses trampling on the body of Sayyid al-Shuhada, and from the Khaymaga Zainab.
ماتم حسين ماتم فاطمة.
Hussein, 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 Hussein,
Hussein. Mu'mineen, please come forward. Make rows, inshallah, and you give pursa to Lady Fatima al-Zahra. Hussein, Hussein. Hussein, Hussein. Hussein, Hussein. Hussein, Hussein. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Buried in your heart the son of Fatima.
Buried in your heart the son of Fatima.
Warith of Adam wa Nuh Mustafa.
Warith of Adam wa Nuh Mustafa.
That Hussein ibn Ali al-Murtada.
That Hussein ibn Ali al-Murtada,
Who defied every zulm of Ashqiya, with his final call you still reverberate till the skies
radiate. Karbala, your
Everyone.
tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate.
He who taught us how to brave adversity.
He who taught us how to brave adversity.
Never compromise on your humanity.
Never compromise on your humanity.
He who fought malice with generosity.
He who fought malice with generosity.
And became the standard of integrity.
Only if his model we could emulate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate.
Everyone.
Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate.
Karbala, your message is pristine and pure.
Karbala, your message is pristine and pure.
Never be unjust, nor injustice endure.
Never be unjust nor injustice endure.
Wealth and power never should inspire awe.
Wealth and power never should inspire awe.
Everything you heard and everything you saw,
Till our final breath we shall commemorate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate.
everyone.
Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate.
Karbala, you would be lost in history.
Karbala, you would be lost in history.
And Ali Akbar wa Abbas Jare.
And Ali Akbar wa Abbas Jare.
Were it not for your Sahib Ali,
Were it not for your Sahib Ali,
in the court of arrogance and tyranny, now forever will your sermon resonate. Now forever will your sermon resonate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Ya Hussein.
Sayyada Tahira, Sayyada Tahira, Sayyada Tahira, Sayyada Tahira, Sayyada Sayyada Tahira, Sayyada Tahira, Sayyada Tahira, Sayyada Sayyada रोती रही खड़ी ज़हरा भरे दरबार में, रोती रही खड़ी ज़हरा भरे दरबार में, रोती रही खड़ी ज़हरा भरे میں روتی رہی نہ جانے کس طرح نہ جانے کس طرح حق مانگتی رہی زہرا بھرے دربار میں روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا نہ جانے کس طرح نہ جانے کس طرح حق مانگتی رہی زہرا بھرے دربار میں روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا بھرے دربار میں روتی رہی سند کے ٹکڑے ہوا میں اڑا کے ہنسنے لگا رسول ذاتی سے گستاخ ایسے کہنے لگا پتا وہ کون سی پتا وہ کون سی جاگیر ہے تیری زہرا برے دربار میں روتی رہی کھڑی روتی رہی حسن حسین سے سچے گواہ بھی جھوٹے لائے رلا کے بھی کو ظالم ذرا نہ شرمائے بھلا نہ پائے گی بھلا نہ پائے گی امت کی بے رخی زہرا برے دربار میں روتی رہی ہے نہ جانے کس طرح نہ جانے کس طرح حق مانگتی رہی زہرا برے دربار میں روتی رہی یہ اس کی بیٹی ہے جس نے دولت چاند کیا وہ جس کے نور نے ہر روشنی کو ماند کیا اسے ستاؤنا اسے ستاؤنا دکھیاری ہے بڑی زہرا برے دربار میں روتی رہی میں روتی رہی یہ اس کی بیٹی ہے جس نے دولت چاند کیا وہ جس کے نور نے ہر روشنی کو ماند کیا اسے ستاؤنا اسے ستاؤنا دکھیاری ہے بڑی زہرا برے دربار میں روتی رہی زہرا برے دربار میں روتی رہی سیاہ بال جمع کے سفید تر دیکھے توقیر کیسے کہوں بیٹیوں نے سر پیٹے گئی تھی جس طرح گئی تھی جس طرح گھر ہے تھکی تھکی زہرا بھرے دربار میں رو نبی کے بعد یہ کیا ہو گیا زمانے کو، کیوں کلمہ گو ہے چلے تیرا گھر جلا